We're here today with Doug Allyn. He is the Public Libraries of Saginaw's One Book, One Community author this year. Doug is the author of The Burning of Rachel Hayes, which is our One Book, One Community book. He'll be joining us on Saturday, April 12th here at Zauel Library at 1 o'clock for a writer's workshop. And then we'll be moving over to the Saginaw Club at 3:30 for the author appearance. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. We're honored to have you here. Okay, first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the book, The Burning of Rachel Hayes. For those who have not yet read The Burning of Rachel Hayes, can you give us a brief synopsis?
The book begins in 1876. It's set in northern Michigan. A farm wife, there was a great fire that year, and a farm wife disappears with her daughter in the fire. And 100 years later, a young veterinarian opens a practice on the same land. And soon after that, a young boy disappears. And our story is off and running.
And there we go. And I've read it. It's excellent. Excellent. I really enjoyed it. It's a mystery. Would you classify it as?
Yeah, it would fall into that category. That's where I fall, yeah.
Okay, yep. I love a good mystery. So, what led you to write The Burning of Rachel Hayes?
There are a couple of issues that troubled me. I'm a history buff, and what is the saying? If you don't read history, don't remember history, you're doomed to repeat it.
So true.
And in reading about the fires that scorched this state in the late 19th century, it occurred to me that we're very close to things like that again, and we haven't learned the lesson that was actually given to us 100 years ago.
Right.
Invasive species, things like that.
Okay. That
we don't notice until we have to cut down all the ash trees.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, well, good. Do you have a favorite character in The Burning of Rachel Hayes?
The main character in the book is the veterinarian, and he's based on a friend of mine, also a veterinarian, guy I've known for years, who shall remain nameless so that he can't sue me, I think.
How long did it take you to write the book?
This was a little, usually it's about 18 months for me. This was probably closer to 2 years because I had some starts and stops, wanted to go back and fix some things.
Okay. Do you go through a lot of revisions typically, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I would think so. I would think so.
Something like 10 drafts, seriously.
Really?
Yeah.
I believe that. I believe it. Do you usually do your drafts once it's all done, or do you do by chapter, or does it just vary?
It varies. It's whatever the mood is. I really love this work, and one thing I've learned about it is that go with what feels good that day. You'll do better work.
Yeah, that's a very good point. When did you decide, or was it even a conscious decision, to become a writer?
Sophomore year in college.
Was it really?
Yeah, I had a teacher for creative writing, which I took almost on a whim. But he was a 30-year Marine. Dr. Myron David Orr, and he had retired to Alpena, where I grew up, to write historical novels. And I just thought the arc of his life, that is, being a soldier for 30 years, and then starting to write, yeah, that worked for me.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's later than I thought you would have said, you know?
Well, I mean, most writers are compulsive readers from the time they're little kids, and I was too, you know, but more interested in a whole lot of other things than that at the time.
Which brings us to our next question.
Sure.
Do you write full-time or part-time?
Well, I'm a full-time writer. I have been since the 80s. I was a musician then. I was a professional musician on the road and in recording studios for all of my adult life, really. And in the 80s, it occurred to me that this big battle plan that I had when I was 18 wasn't working out quite the way I expected. So I went at it seriously and have been working almost full-time at it ever since. Full-time being when you start. If you can do an hour a day, that's a good day.
I would think so.
Now that would be vacation.
Sure.
But at the time, that was as much as I could do.
It's demanding.
It is.
Very demanding, I'm sure. Where do your ideas come from for your books?
Usually it's something that I care passionately about. It will be, it can be something in the news, conversations. Sometimes I'll go to sleep with a problem, you know, trying to sort it out and have the answer in the morning.
I do that too.
Yeah, so the ideas are really, I think they're around you all the time. It's just that when you're working in this field, you recognize that's a good story. That's
Sure.
something I would like to write about.
Sure, it jumps out at you a little bit more,
Yeah,
probably.
it does.
Yep, I can see that. Do you work from an outline or a plot, or do you let the story lead you? I know I've talked to other authors, and some people say, you know, I know what the ending's going to be when I start,
Yep.
and others say I have no idea what the ending's going to be until I
would
start
fall
writing.
into that category.
Okay, all right.
But I do work from an outline because I have found that you don't have to follow it. But if you don't have it in the first place, it's like trying to build a doghouse out of a pile
Sure.
of lumber. You need to have some kind of an
That's a good
idea
analogy.
of what it's going to look like when you're done.
Okay, all right. Are you working on anything new at the minute?
Current novel is, it's called Woodsmoke Boys. I've done 2, I think, since this one was out. Rachel Hayes was published in English, Japanese, French, going to German. It's actually still alive and
Which
well.
is
It's been 3 or
amazing.
4 years.
Yeah, and you are an Edgar Award-winning author too. We should note
Yeah, I've won twice, actually.
that, which is hard to do, I'm
is
sure.
hard, yeah.
Very hard to do. Very hard to do. So it's a great accomplishment. And
Oh, shucks.
I know. See, that's why we're so honored to have you with us. How do you think you've evolved creatively from that sophomore year in college?
I didn't do any writing I mean, I decided my sophomore year in college, yes, I'm going to be an author someday.
Sure.
End of story. I'm done. I enlisted right after my sophomore year, and did 32 months in sunny Southeast Asia, which ended my ideas of doing 30 years as a soldier.
Yeah.
And when I came back, I took a summer job in a rock and roll band, found out I could make a living at that, and I did that for a living for the next 30 years.
Very cool.
Didn't really have to work. Loved playing in bands. It was just so much great fun. And then in the 80s, saw a movie. Remember The Natural?
I do.
Robert Redford?
I do remember that. Yeah.
There's a scene in that movie where the baseball player meets his old girlfriend, and she says, "Whatever happened to you?" And he says, "My life did not turn out the way I expected." And I remember walking out of that movie thinking, my life did not turn out the way I expected.
It really
This was not the
resonated.
plan.
Yeah.
I was supposed to write at some point, and
And you
this is
hadn't.
it. I hadn't done anything. And so I went back to school, joined a writers club, worked at it as hard as I could, and it took me about 2 years to break into print.
Okay. That's fast.
It is fast.
That's really fast. Yeah.
They say the average is 4 years. I'm not sure where they get that.
Who knows? They
what
make
they say.
it up. Okay. Changing gears just a little bit.
Sure.
Who are your favorite authors?
Some of them are on that wall. Robert Parker, Elmore Leonard.
And you've gotten to meet them.
Yes, I did, and that's, I mean, I'm a fan. You know, it's one of the great pleasures for me to run into people that I've read all my life, and you get to meet these guys and ladies in this business. It's a real rush.
I bet it is. Yeah, I bet it is. For your own reading,
Sure.
do you prefer ebooks or a good old paper hardcover book?
I'm still a hardcover guy. I think it's a generational thing about every kid under 12 is going to know more about computers than we will ever understand. And we grew up with books. You know, and so for me, I have a Kindle. I still use it, but we'll see.
I'm the same
I can't
way.
say I like it better. You know.
Yeah, I like to feel a book. I like the smell of the book. I still prefer the books myself.
For the Japanese, for instance, they don't really have hardcovers. This is Rachel in Japanese.
Okay.
And this is a Japanese hardcover. They don't
Okay.
waste paper.
Okay.
Which is, I guess, noble of them, and just so their check's clear.
It's smaller and everything. Interesting.
And I'm not sure how much longer this will last. I would guess that it probably, if we have this conversation 5 years from now, there won't be hardcovers anymore. Of course,
It's
that's what they
so
said
hard to
about
say.
LPs back in the 80s. too.
Exactly. It's hard
We'll
to
see.
say.
Yeah.
See where it goes. It's definitely evolving right now.
But it is, yeah.
Definitely. What books are you reading right now?
I just finished 2 of Ken Follett's books, Fall of Giants, I think it's called, and the Century series, anyway. And
Sure.
That's a great series. And
a
same
popular
time,
series
I'm
in the
reading
library.
Ken Bruin, friend recommended him. He's an Irish author.
Okay.
He's terrific. Declan Hughes, also an Irish author.
Yeah.
That just happened to be that way. And Cormac McCarthy, I've read him a lot. I'm a binge reader. You know, if I find somebody I like, I'll read.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are. We see that coming into the library even. A lot of people, once they start a series or they find an author that they like, they keep reading.
I want to see it all.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, publishing. Since we're doing the writer's workshop,
Sure.
just touch real quickly just to kind of get people going here before they come in for the actual workshop. What would you say are the main advantages and disadvantages of self-publishing?
That's really in a state of revolution. It's really in a state of revolution right now. 10 years ago, self-publishing was vanity press. You paid a lot of money, they printed your book, you get copies. That's basically the end of it. That is all blown away now. The net has 4 or 5 major outlets that are open to new authors. You have to sell in order to make money, but that's okay. This is America. That's what we do.
Right.
But the doors are open, doors that you used to have. And don't get me wrong, I have an agent. I work with 4 agents, in fact.
Sure.
I have, because I started out in the traditional format. That format doesn't exist anymore.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Let me rephrase. It still exists, but there are now options open that didn't exist before.
That makes sense.
Where if you don't want to go that route, there's a completely different doorway open to you, and that doesn't guarantee that you're going to sell it, but at least you can see your work. You can get your work out there.
You can get it out there.
And it used to be that if you didn't have an agent, a New York agent probably, it's very tough to get through that door at all.
I think it's happening in the music industry too, isn't it? I see a lot more I don't know if self-published is the right word, but the musical artists coming forward.
Electronic publishing would probably cover it better, because you're doing it yourself, but at the same time you're involved with websites and companies that do this sort of work. You can do all of it yourself if you're skilled enough.
Sure.
Most creative people tend not to be skilled in those fields. But I mean, there's lots of help out there. But you're right.
There seems to be.
The music business went through this probably 20 years ago and is still ongoing. Book publishing is now where music was 10 years ago.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah.
And it has changed everything. Not everything for the better, but it's changed everything.
But it's changed, right. And I think everybody's kind of feeling it out and learning as we go, so to speak. When
we grew up, there were bookstores. Now there's Barnes & Noble.
Right.
And a very few, small and excellent bookstores. And Agatha's in Ann Arbor comes to mind.
Right.
They won the Raven Award for bookstores this year.
Right.
But the business itself, very different than it was.
It is definitely.
It really is revolutionary.
It is. It is. What advice would you give to aspiring writers?
They say that if you love your work, if you love your job, how does that go? You love your job, you'll never work a day in your life.
That's it, I think. Yep.
I love this work.
Isn't that wonderful?
It is so much fun. That's because I'm having a good day today. My day started at 5:30 this morning because I woke up with a problem that's been bugging me solved. So
good.
instantly at the desk and hard at it.
Awesome.
There are other days when that's not the case, and that's why they call it work.
That's right.
But if you really love this business, this is not that hard. If you're in it for the money or for the fame, do something else.
Look somewhere else, yeah.
Because it is too hard to do for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where do you see publishing going in the future? We know we talked about it evolving and changing, and do you think it will eventually go all to self-publishing, or do you still see those New York agents being a vital part of the industry?
That's difficult to say. If you go to New York, and I'm there almost every year on business, there's a series of skyscrapers called Publishers Row. Okay. And for about 6 blocks, that's all you see. And my books are getting done like on floor 11 of the Flatiron building or something like that. They were for years. And it's just one little corner of one little beehive. So it's a huge industry, mostly centered in New York City. But scattering now, and even those big publishing houses are breaking up because everything's done online. So they don't need to be in a single office building in one town anymore. That is going to have a huge impact on things. Already has had a huge impact on things. The other aspect of it is It's much less labor intensive than it used to be. It takes fewer people to put out a book, to run a book publishing company than it did, say, 20 years ago.
Sure.
When I first started publishing in magazines, Dell magazines, for instance, I think I had about 10 editors at the time.
Okay.
And now they have 4. And to do the same amount of work. The quality hasn't fallen off a bit. There are just fewer people doing it. Everything is so much simpler. Nobody uses hard copy anymore, or very few people, I guess. I think Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine still uses hard copy,
Okay.
but not too many.
Interesting. All right. Well, hopefully that gets you excited for our upcoming event. Like I mentioned at the beginning, Doug will be with us on Saturday, April 12th. He'll be here at Hoyt at 1 p.m. for the Writers' Workshop. So he'll touch on some of the things we talked about and even more. So if you're at all interested in writing and have ideas, please join us. And then at 3:30, we'll be at the Saginaw Club for his author appearance, where you can ask questions and he can give answers. So
We can talk about books.
Yeah, we can talk. It'll be fun. Doug, thank you very much.
Thanks so much
Really
for having me.
appreciate it. You're welcome.